intelligence emerging out of biological organization.
Trainment happens. The brainwaves will pick up the frequency.
My main function is to reduce guilt, to reduce fear.
Fall in hell or so angelic, you'll need a pinch of psychedelic.
Psychedelic Times podcast with Joe Mattia.
Welcome to the Psychedelic Times podcast. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Joe, and today's guest is Javier Regueiro. Before I tell you more about him and our conversation, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps. They are the top U.S. brand of soaps in the natural marketplace and make socially and environmentally responsible products of the highest quality and dedicate their profits to help make a better world. How do they do this? Well, they are a certified B Corporation, which is a company that balances purpose and profit. They are legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, community, and environment. Every year, Dr. Bronner's makes contributions to a number of incredible programs and causes, including drug policy reform, sustainable agriculture, wage equality, fair trade, animal advocacy, psychedelic research. The list goes on and on. If you're interested to know more about it, check out the All One report on their website to get a detailed breakdown of all these contributions. One of my favorite facts about Dr. Bronner's is the highest paid employee's salary is capped at 5 times the lowest paid employee. So if David, the CEO, wants a raise, that lowest paid employee has to get a raise as well. They are truly an example for the world on how a company can earn profits ethically while paying its people really well and making a positive change in the world. I could literally go on forever. If you're not familiar with them and want to know more about their business practices, do a search. You'll be blown away. In 2017, major contribution to MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, of $5 million. $1 million a year for 5 years. The gift will be reserved for the Phase 3 studies of the MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD program to make MDMA an FDA-approved medicine. To learn more about that, check out MAPS. Once again, I'm extremely proud to have Dr. Bronner sponsor our podcast. Go out and grab a bottle of their soap. My favorite scent is the lavender. Not only will you be fresh and clean with their fair trade organic soap, you'll be contributing to some of the most groundbreaking projects in the world. This episode is brought to you by the Temple of the Way of Light Ayahuasca Healing Center in Peru. They've been around since 2007 and are very well known in the community for being one of the safest and most thoughtful centers in the world. They're constantly working to offer the safest container and most effective ayahuasca healing experience in the Amazon. They developed one of the most stringent health and safety protocols available on any ayahuasca retreat. The temple's commitment to guests begin with in-depth medical and psychological screenings, which happens during the booking procedure and continues after the retreat through integration support. Guiding guests safely through deep personal healing and growth is their top priority, both in and out of ceremony. Their team of indigenous Shipibo healers represents over 250 years of experience practicing the ancient art of ayahuasca shamanism. The healers are supported by highly trained and experienced Western facilitators who act as a critical cultural bridge between the healers and the guests. The temple was founded on the philosophy that the atmosphere of genuine care and compassion provides optimum conditions for healing. Over the many years, they've become extremely well known for their sensitive style of facilitation and level of support offered to guests by their entire team. The temple offers ayahuasca retreat programs of varying duration, focus, and intensity. All retreats have a balance of female and male healers, daily floral baths, access to a steam bath, a high ratio of healers to guests, a high number of ayahuasca ceremonies, individual consultations, a nutritional balanced ayahuasca food diet, and a strong focus on how to process and integrate healing both during and after each retreat. All this takes place with a core focus on sustainability, permaculture, ethics, and social responsibility. The temple is situated on 175 hectares of land that's being developed and rehabilitated through a permaculture master plan that combines sustainable buildings, staple food production, medicinal gardens, a plant nursery, sustainable ayahuasca production, rainwater harvesting, natural water systems, renewable energy systems, and much, much more. If you're feeling called to work with ayahuasca, definitely check out the temple. They offer powerful programs for people who want traditional, authentic experiences with ayahuasca healing combined with a comprehensive focus on integration. And now for today's guest, Javier Regueiro. He's an ayahuasquero that's been studying plant medicine and shamanism since he moved to Peru back in 2004. With his teacher's blessing, he became a full-time ayahuasquero in 2006, and since then continues to deepen his practice by doing extended dietas under his teacher's care. And at the same time, he's been leading plant medicine ceremonies for large groups and individuals, as well as extended dietas at his Ayaruna Center in Pisac, Peru. Javier is the author of 2 books, Ayahuasca, Soul Medicine of the Amazon Jungle, and San Pedro Huachuma, Opening the Pathways of the Heart. He speaks fluent English, Spanish, French, German, and Italian. Javier and I had a really insightful conversation around the use of ayahuasca, integration, and the exploration of the shadow side. And I think that this is a great conversation for people considering exploring with any plant medicine really, but specifically ayahuasca, and also for people who may have a little more experience but are looking to go a little deeper or perhaps get some clarity around previous experiences they've had. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Javier and I. I look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. Okay, Javier, welcome, brother. So great to finally meet you in the flesh. Here we are. How is your tour so far in California going?
My tour so far is going very well. This past Sunday, I held an event in Sausalito, only for women, which is something that was not in the books, but came up as something important, as I believe that on a planetary level, on a collective level, what we are being called to do is heal the feminine. Heal the feminine, which is not only about women, but it's also one of its biggest expressions, this planet as a whole. And so offering my support to women, they're not the only ones who are called to heal the feminine. Men are just as necessary in this process, but supporting women and encouraging them in this process, which is often challenging.
What do you mean by heal the feminine? Just like for people to kind of resonate with that who might not.
Heal the feminine, basically, we have been, particularly in our Judeo-Christian tradition, have been repressing, oppressing, oftentimes abusing women and all expressions of feminine energy. Just recently, for instance, here in the States, you're experiencing another wave of women speaking openly about instances of sexual abuse in the workplace. So this is part of a larger process of healing a long history of abuse of women, of repressing their energy, of through judgment, even through religious and legal texts, limiting their freedom to be women.
Right.
And so women are actually invited now to not only heal their own wounds, but also whatever ancestral wounds that have not been healed and integrated yet, for the sake, therefore, not just of themselves, but of collective consciousness as a whole.
Right. So what does that work look like? Like an example of that in what you were doing up in...
So I spoke at this event for an hour, and then I had all the women laying down, breathing, holding both hands over their hearts. The heart is the receptacle of a lot of medicine, meaning that, for instance, in plant medicine, ceremonies, the medicine may bring up, invite us to look at unhealed instances. They invite us to let go of all stories that no longer serve us. However, it is up to us to make peace with our past, to offer forgiveness to ourselves or others. The medicine acts only as a catalyst. Ultimately, the biggest medicine is right within our hearts. So I had them breathe into their hearts, and then I took them through a guided meditation, like a coming into deeper awareness of whatever it is that they may have been holding in their wombs, including stories of sexual, quote-unquote, abuse or misuse of erotic energy, and then into their lower bellies, repressed emotions, then over their belly button, inviting them to connect with their mothers and feel whatever degree of connection or disconnection with their birth mothers, and invited them to bring in the presence of their birth mothers and entertain the possibility that their mothers were and are their first and most important teachers. Because in that mother-daughter relationship, the mother is the first one, by example, who teaches their daughters how to be or how not to be a woman. I'm fond of telling my clients that any really, really good teacher will make us cry and will drive us insane at some point or another. And that fits our experience of our immediate family.
Sure.
And then after this, I also invited them to become aware of the fact that their mothers are also the first ancestor. Therefore, whatever connection, whatever disconnection between a daughter and a mother also prevents them from accessing the wisdom, the strength, the power of their ancestors. And last, I had them put one hand, while keeping the other on over their hearts, over their solar plexus. The solar plexus is connected with the third chakra, which is about power. And there is a lot of talking and activities among women about reclaiming and stepping into their power. So I had them explore the ways in which they disempower themselves, the ways in which they have given over and over their power away, the ways in which they have disowned their own experience by blaming somebody else for their own experience, which for me, these 3 steps are necessary if anybody wants to step into their own power. You're not going to step into your own power by surrounding yourself with power crystals or anything like this. That power is already within ourselves. By the way, everything I tell you is just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That power is already inside ourselves. But we create ourselves as powerless. We create ourselves as victims. So it's about exploring those beliefs in consciousness that keep us small. And once we integrate them, then our innate power is allowed to shine again.
Sure. So, you said these are your opinions. I'm curious to talk a little bit about your history, actually. I think that it's relevant because I think your opinion comes from a place of a lot of personal growth and also experience working with a lot of people. You kind of go over a little bit of that history for me a little bit.
I grew up in South Switzerland, so in a Catholic environment. And early my adolescence, I became aware that I was gay and intuited that that was not welcome within the Catholic Church. So I left at the age of 11 my spiritual home and started on a journey of looking for the divine all around the world. I've prayed at many, many temples, engaged in many different spiritual and religious traditions, and just pursued this journey of self-discovery, which also entailed a lot of healing of wounds that I've been carrying for lifetimes. And in 2004, I went to the Amazon jungle. I had drank ayahuasca a couple of times some years earlier. And finally, in 2004, I went to the jungle for a couple of weeks for an ayahuasca retreat. As I was once again running out of tricks. And I was getting increasingly bored with my own dramas. And that experience in the jungle was very healing. So much so that as a result, I entertained the possibility of studying plant medicine.
I was just curious, before this journey, you said you had a few experiences
A couple of ayahuasca ceremonies.
and then
yes.
other psychedelics, just out of curiosity.
Other psychedelics, most importantly MDMA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the year after, I went back to Peru to find out whether my interest in studying plant medicine was serious. And while I was there for the second time, in the middle of an ayahuasca ceremony, I was so in awe of this medicine that from a place within me just came out the words directed to the medicine: "You're awesome. I want to work for you." And here I am 12 years later, still in service to this medicine as well as San Pedro, as well as all the medicines that I work with, and in service of all the people who feel drawn to engaging in this process under my guidance. So, as a result of that, I've been engaging very intensely with plant medicines. The apprenticeship process entails, oftentimes in the traditional way, several plant diets. And through that process and my own, and also through working as a plant medicine person, I have not only continued my own personal healing, but I've also been blessed enough to learn from these plants, learn from the cultures, learn from the ancestral wisdom of the people in the jungle and in the Andes, and have been exposed to a different way of perceiving myself, perceiving others, perceiving this universe, that is devoid of many of the unconscious lenses that we wear that end up distorting our perception of who we are and of the world we live in. The biggest among them is the lens of fear. And by facing and eventually letting go of my fears, and the deepest fears, among them fear of dying, fear of losing control, fear of going mad, fear of not being loved, fear of rejection. Once that thick veil of fear was released, to come to an experience of myself, and particularly of myself and the world, as being truly, intrinsically, just love. Love, benevolence, nurturing, and incredible intelligence and wisdom.
And so, working with plant medicine and facing your fears, you now feel, I guess I'm trying to understand this, like, so there is still fear for you, or now you've kind of processed this in a way now that it's
pretty much done.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is, I believe, a certain misconception about what the experience of enlightenment or full self-realization. We often perceive those episodes as an end, reached the goal. Whereas in my experience, these experiences of awakening, they're simply just another doorway.
Sure.
And that doorway is onto a more expanded state of consciousness and awareness, but also for me, the work with plant medicine is not one that seeks transcendence, that seeks going away, transcending this level of reality. Actually, I find that the invitation of plants as well as all of creation, is for us to engage more fully
Sure.
and with renewed enthusiasm in the process of life.
Right.
So as a result, since those episodes of awakening, I have engaged into many more things, endeavors that have actually put me into situations that at times have sparked fear,
Right.
or anger, or disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like awakening is the end of feeling. Actually, I feel much more deeply than I ever have. It's my own attitude towards my own emotions that has changed. So I embrace those emotions. I'm no longer scared of whatever may arise from within myself.
So I can relate to this. I've drank ayahuasca handful, maybe a dozen or so times, and you've worked with quite a bit of people now, I guess.
Yes.
Over the past decade now. Right?
Over the past 11 years, I've worked with at least a couple thousand people.
So I'm curious, and it's probably different for everyone, but at what point does a person get to this state of peace? Like where? Because ayahuasca is this practice, right? I know a lot of people who will go and they'll have an experience with it, and that's it. But more often than not, plant medicine, and specifically ayahuasca, I see as a practice, right? That people are coming back to these things a couple times a year. It looks like some people it's once, but
so. For me, it's important to be aware that our journeys, meaning the journey of life, is a unique experience for each one of us. Therefore, there are no formulas. I cannot tell you, no, it's going to be 55 ceremonies or 250. This is a unique journey. That's right. And what we are invited to do is to let go of any comparing and of any expectations, but to be patient and humble. In that journey, for me, plant medicine is just another among many, many tools for awareness, spiritual awakening, or healing.
Right.
And in that, we may find that, yes, at some point, ayahuasca is really valuable, if not vital. And then at some other times, no. And maybe other paths, other tools are in order. So it's about honoring our own journey.
Right.
And nowadays, we experience this on a global level of time speeding up and all of our assumptions disintegrating. What was 100 years ago valid had probably been valid for at least 1,000 years before then.
Sure.
50 years ago, it was only those rules were only valid for the previous 50 years. And nowadays, yesterday's rules and assumptions may probably not be as valid and useful as they were yesterday.
Sure.
We are being called to stay in the present moment more and more and meet ourselves and our world from where we are right now. So who knows, the rules of the game may change. Maybe, 20, 50 years from now, people will become enlightened by just looking at a bottle of ayahuasca.
Right.
I don't know.
Sure. Right. Right. And I guess my question is that a lot of people that I'll communicate with around psychedelics, I think some of the confusion regarding using them as medicine and plant medicine is, well, you keep coming back to this. Why are you going again?
Okay.
Why are you doing this again? And my answer is, personally, I for me, it's a community. I'm really lucky to be a part of a community, and there's music, and there's a lot of brotherhood and sisterhood outside of the medicine and the experience of the night and that part, which is always is full of lessons and teaching. But beyond that, there's a bit of a community, and like I said, the music, which really seems to be the tether or the thread that carries me from journey to journey. So for me, it's like prayer. It's like going to church. I'm back in church again. But I'm always curious to hear how someone like you, with who's
first of all, for me, plant medicine is a process. As you are probably aware of, the medicine starts working long before we actually ingest it and keeps working long after the effects have subsided. So it's a much longer experience than we would like to believe.
right.
Plus, for me, the integration part of this process is the most important part of this process. And integration meaning, digesting, so to speak, the experience and actually embodying whatever wisdom, whatever insights we have received into our daily life. That's what integration is. So that wisdom, that those insights are not just abstracts, but are actually to be implemented in our daily lives. That's an open-ended process. Now, some people come back to the medicine on a regular basis because they feel the call. Because they become aware that there's still some exploration to do. Great. Some people, just like you mentioned, have also found in these medicine circles an important community. So the plant medicine circle addresses also a very important aspect of being human, which is the need to belong to any one community, to feel the support. In Eastern philosophy is the concept of Sangha, of a community of like-minded people.
Right. I think Paramahansa Yogananda, somewhere in his text, says communities should be no more than, I can't remember, 3,000, a couple thousand. Basically, no one gets lost. Society, we're so big where people get isolated and, they're not seen.
So people come back to ceremony also to feel that connection and receive and offer support and wisdom, inspiration. And then there is also another group, and individuals may belong to any one of these. These are, in my opinion, people who go to plant medicine ceremonies seeking an expanded state of consciousness, seeking a sense of connection, of unity with the cosmos, with everybody, with themselves. But struggle with exploring their own shadow. basically they never do the dirty work. So in ceremony, they experience an expanded state of awareness and consciousness, which then dissipates within a few days or weeks or months at the most. Because we always fall back into our densest vibratory state. Therefore, if we don't deal with our heaviest energies, with our shadow, with our wounds, with our dysfunctions, with our projections and judgments, with our sense of separation, then that's what we always fall back into. Then these individuals feel the need to once again feel expanded, and therefore they go back to the medicine. And in those cases, the medicine becomes a crutch. Now, my approach to plant medicine work is I primarily do shadow work. Because once we take care of our own dark basement and release all those heavy energies, our consciousness effortlessly elevates because those heavy sandbags are no longer there.
Right.
We don't even need medicine or mind-altering substances of any kind. Simply our consciousness rises.
And your assumption is this shadow is universal. It's across the board in most people. It's going to be there.
Apart from those spirits who come to this planet with a deliberate intention to support others in their awakening, you can trust that most of us are here to heal, and most importantly, are here to remember who they really are. And that process, this is a healing planet. This is as much as, this planet Earth is as much of, in my opinion, a hospital as it is a classroom. It's not a holiday place. If we are really ready to have a holiday, this is not the place to sign up for. We come here to heal our wounds and to remember who we really are. Because this planet, with its healing qualities that are expressed in all the plant medicines that grow all over this planet, and are expressions of this healing quality of this planet, is the most ideal place for us to come and do whatever we came here to do. It is easy to fall into a place of believing, I don't need any healing, my journey is done, I'm all enlightened. My teacher, Don Francisco Montes, is fond of telling everybody that plant medicine is a science that never ends. And in recent years, I've taken these words of his to mean that it's important for us to always keep an attitude of humility and always remain a student. We may have become masters at this or that, but to actually stay in that place of student, open to learning more, open to expanding and exploring and playing more. I think it's working for me. It's giving me plenty of room to grow and to play, rather than going around going like, I have all the answers and that's it. Because for me, the process of creation keeps unfolding. The process of life, this expression of divine creative energy, is amazing. And it will continue until we all of us realize that that creative energy and power is within each one of us. When we finally get it, then there will be no need to create anymore. But, it will be a few years at least.
So we touched a little bit on integration a little bit, but back that up just a small step and let's talk about preparation, and then let's talk about integration. Let's talk a little bit about dietas and how to approach the medicine, and also this concept that the medicine is working on you before you even receive it. It's all kind of tethered together. People make a choice, and then I think there is this.
Yeah. In terms of preparation, the question I ask people is, what are you willing to give and or give up in order to receive whatever it is that you hope to receive from this process? Life as I experience it, and in this, Andean ancestral wisdom has been a great teacher, is flavored by this concept of aini, of reciprocity and mutuality. We only reap as much as we sow. And there are no exceptions.
Sure.
So the preparation is about preparing dietary-wise as well as consciousness-wise in order to receive what we hope to receive from this process. It's about helping the medicine help us. Those preparatory guidelines may differ from place to place, from teacher to teacher, tradition to tradition.
Pretty wide varying
yes.
too. I mean, there's
I like to keep mine to a strict minimum and keep it simple, so that people are not overwhelmed and end up throwing the whole list away.
Sure.
In that, I would also add, it seems to me very important. So a lot of the restrictions are dietary. It's important for us to be aware that we ingest nowadays more information and more images than we actually ingest food or water.
Yes.
So it's important, I recommend to everybody who is interested in engaging in this process to be aware of that and maybe put themselves on a little media diet.
Right.
As well as a food diet.
I had this journey and I found myself sympathizing with characters from Game of Thrones. And I don't watch TV. I haven't watched a television show, but I got sucked into this series. I started watching it. I very embarrassingly moved through numerous seasons in a short period of time. And then I went on a journey and I was sympathizing with a character from the show. And I thought, this is wrong. Like, what am I, but I could feel the pain. And it was like, man, those images are powerful. They really do penetrate.
So it's important to be aware
right.
Of how our environment, the media that we expose ourselves to affects us.
Right.
And then if for me it's important to observe those same restrictions after the ceremony or after the retreat, for as long as we observe them in preparation to the retreat. The time right after a ceremony or retreat is a very sensitive time, because it's a time of allowing the pieces that have been scrambled around to fall into their new places within our own self. Which is why I strongly advise people to not get into any kind of altered states through alcohol or other mind-altering substances for however short or long a while right after a ceremony or retreat. Because our consciousness is processing a lot. And it may seem like a good idea to get high after a ceremony. But oftentimes it creates confusion. Sometimes we're lucky, sometimes we're not that lucky.
Right.
And personally, I don't play with this.
Right.
Because it's about my physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. As a matter of fact, the longer I engage in this process, the more respectful I've become of it. Because the more I've engaged with it, the more deeply aware I've become of its power.
Right.
And for me, the more powerful the process, the more delicate. So this is important for people when they take this or that substance. You know, in our culture, oftentimes we are prey of this belief that stronger is better, that more is better. But it's important to be aware that the stronger the medicine, the more delicate it is. And the longer it will take to actually process and integrate that experience.
Right.
That integration can be supported by other means, by whatever it is that the person feels that they need in the aftermath of the plant medicine experience. That could be anything. That could be seeing a therapist, taking up their meditation practice again, or maybe going to see their mothers, or going on a vacation.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
So what I have become aware with the years is that plant medicine, a medicine addresses not our desires, but our needs.
Right.
We don't go to a dentist because we like going to a dentist.
Right.
We go to the dentist because we need it.
Right.
So, for instance, in the preparation before a ceremony, I invite people to start focusing not on what they want to receive from the ceremony, but what they feel they need the most at this point in their lives.
Sure.
In so doing, we are actually aligning ourselves with the energy of the medicine, which is to address our needs, not our desires. And this practice of greater awareness of our needs continues after the ceremony in just staying gently aware and go like, okay, what do I need? Do I need a certain food? Or do I need to give up this? Do I need to see someone? Do I need to see a therapist? Or do I need to stop seeing my therapist?
Sure.
You know, all of this is a process, because in our culture, the emphasis, because we are very ego driven. So the voice that we hear the most and the loudest is always, what do I want?
Right.
Plant medicine is a spiritual process that addresses our needs on a deeper level than just the desires of our hungry egos.
Right. So, we get a lot of people who reach out to us through the website, and I know a lot of people will go down to Peru or Brazil or wherever and sit with ayahuasca or other medicine and have really transformative week or two or even a month, and they come home, and all this makes a lot of sense to people in the moment, and then the integration, they know what they need, and we're in the process of trying to find a way to support these people the best we can through this website with information, just like this talk actually is a part of that process, is supporting people through that. And what I think is trying to happen here is that people need that, like we're calling it a coach. It could be a friend, but somebody who's holding down the energetic corner. You're blasting off into the cosmos. You're exploring your consciousness. You're going on this medicine path. And you have somebody in your corner who's kind of not doing that, and that you know well and knows you well, that you've been vulnerable enough with, that they know you, that you can't really bullshit with them, basically. It's somebody that you've kind of shown yourself to, like you're saying, a therapist, but perhaps that's not available for everybody.
And it's not necessary for everybody.
That's right. So with that being said, it's like, I guess I'm just bringing up the point that I really think it's important that people have someone that they're checking in with before they leave for these journeys, and also when they come home. Yeah. And it could just be a friend, somebody, it doesn't have to inherently be professional. Yeah,
absolutely. So with what you were saying, first of all, it's important to dispel this misconception that ayahuasca or San Pedro or peyote or anything is the magic pill that we've always looked for. There are no magic pills. I've looked around all my life. I did not find it.
Right.
And neither has anybody else.
Right.
They don't exist. We keep looking for them. We keep hoping. But no. Because, and here's the beauty about it. First of all, there is really nothing to fix. We are perfectly okay as we are, no matter how flawed we perceive ourselves to be. But second is that nothing and nobody can live our lives for us. So this process, if anything, can support us, can encourage us into living our own lives more fully. So this is the first thing, is like, no, you will not find what you've been looking for. The fix is not here. Actually, you're going to come. People find the plant medicine process really challenging in the moment. And then at the end of it, they go like, I survived. Mm-hmm. Unaware that actually the more challenging part of the process is just about to begin, going back home. Now, it's important to be aware that in our present world, perhaps the most challenging thing is to actually live in integrity with ourselves, to actually walk our talk.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many opportunities, and oftentimes we feel forced to betray ourselves, to not act in alignment with who we know ourselves to be. It's easy. In order to get a certain job, I'm willing to betray myself and forsake my need, for instance, of access to nature. In order to receive the love that I may be craving, I'm willing to exercise some degree of lying and hypocrisy. All of these things, it's really, and it's not really supported. Our society does not really support authenticity.
Integrity.
And integrity.
It's not there.
It's actually, society thrives on us betraying ourselves and sacrificing our own truth in order to contribute to this big machine.
That's right. I look at my son in school and it's like the system does not reward integrity.
No.
They don't get the accolades or the I'm sorry.
It's true.
Right.
And so somebody in the middle of the process with plant medicines, everything is clear. Everything, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to go about it, and there is this clarity and impetus. And then we get into 3D everyday reality, which is a lot more dense. And then, first of all, old patterns that have not been really integrated yet resurface. Old fears that have not been faced yet resurface. All of this, limiting beliefs, self-judgment, that become obstacles to actually manifesting the truth that we have accessed. But this is part of the journey. So I go back in 3D reality and I realize that I still hold the belief that I'm not good enough. And that is preventing me from, creating the next whatever. Okay, so this belief, I'm not enough, resurfaces. Great. You may want to bring that into your next ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And ask in the medicine, right up front, help me explore this belief. Help me connect with the part of myself that holds this belief so that I can integrate it. And keep doing so until that line between my dreaming and my actual manifesting of my vision or my truth is a reality.
You're working on me, I feel you're speaking to me. I'm processing my last journey, and I'm like, I had a really hard one, and I got left at the end. I'm pretty new with ayahuasca, but the few journeys I've had, I go through the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, but somehow I've been really lucky, or maybe not lucky, whatever you want to call it, that I'm always left kind of on an up note.
Mm-hmm.
And I was left on such a down note of this wound of abuse, and it was this chain of just being taken advantage of. And the medicine just kept showing me all these areas in my life where I was taken advantage of. And then it started to show me my mom and all the places she was taken advantage of, and my brother. And it was like, it was a little scary. It was almost as if it was saying, this is you and this is your DNA, and there it is. You'll be taken advantage of. And I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, okay, can I drink some more medicine? Can I like go up for another cup? What do I do with this information? I just got stuck on it. And
Yes.
I could have driven a car. I was so straight. It wasn't like I was out, and I had drinking a lot, and it didn't seem to change. I was fully aware. I could walk to the bathroom. I could walk outside, but this thing was just right there in front of me.
Okay. So if you had such an experience of clarity, of awareness, of a story that you've been holding in your consciousness, and so strong that there was no turning away from it,
Right.
is because you were ready to look at it, no matter how uncomfortable and overwhelming that looking may have been. Now, it's important to know, oftentimes we are holding stories, predicaments, wounds, and covered with layers of denial and rejection, that at times the medicine is simply at first just opening the lid onto this vessel of stuff. And one may not actually come out of the ceremony with a sense of resolution or relief. The process is still unfolding. So in this case, you were talking about the importance of having someone to support us in the aftermath of a ceremony, which I totally agree with. Somebody who can actually mirror back to you something, or more often than not, support you and encourage you to sit with it and to continue your process in whatever ways you feel inclined to do. Whenever I go to the medicine, I never expect to have a good time. I never expect to come out of it feeling any certain way.
Right.
Never. I go to it with my dirty laundry list, and until I feel that I am truly complete with that, my attention is exclusively focused on the themes of my intentions. Because in the end, the bottom line is, I don't want to spend the rest of my life drinking this shit. I want to go out and play. So I do my homework. And that homework starts before the ceremony by preparing, and continues after the ceremony. This way I take as much advantage of the process as possible. That was the reason why I wrote a book on ayahuasca and a book on San Pedro, to support people in making the most out of this experience. And since we're talking about this, the rising popularity of these medicines is also creating an issue of sustainability. People in the jungle in the Amazon have to go deeper and deeper into the jungle in order to harvest wild ayahuasca. And the jungle is really an environment that the least humans are walking upon it, the better.
Right.
If it's natives who know the ways and know how to leave a light footprint, in their case it's something different. Let's say someone from the city of Iquitos going into the jungle just to cut down ayahuasca, they're probably going to damage the environment in the process of doing so. So this issue of sustainability for me is an invitation for each one of us to take this process and these medicines with more discernment and go into them not recreationally, not because we're bored, not because we're seeking thrills, but only when the medicine is really calling us. And once we show up to do our work.
Thank you.
To stay present.
Yes.
And reminding ourselves that plant medicine is not a constitutional right, is not a human right, that plant medicine is a privilege. We have an amazing privilege, a privilege that simply our grandfathers and grandmothers did not even know about. And now we have this process, these medicines available to us. And before we know it, we start taking it for granted. Whereas, these are live plants that give their life for us. And they're very generous and they're happy to keep giving their lives away for us. They do it no problem, provided, as far as I'm concerned, provided we go to them each and every time with respect and with humility, and with the awareness that this is not kids' play, it's not entertainment, that this is a sacred process and sacred medicines.
I think that's it right there. I think honestly we've hit almost an hour here, and I really think with where that just went is really a powerful way
Perfect.
for us to kind of wrap up here, because thank you so much, brother. I really learned a lot sitting here with you. I feel really privileged and lucky to get the transmission, because it's very evident that you've done a lot of work, and I get it through literally just sitting here with you. And I really appreciate it. I feel like I got a little session myself, and I trust that people will really connect well with this.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you also for through your questions catalyzing my answers.
Yeah, co-creation.
Yeah.
Much love, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, I'd like to express my gratitude for our sponsors, Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps, organic, fair trade, high-quality products, and with every purchase, you are contributing to some of the world's greatest activism. And the Temple of the Way of Light Ayahuasca Healing Center in Peru, providing safe and traditional experiences with a comprehensive approach to integration. Thank you to Javier for taking time to meet and speak with me. I really learned a lot from spending time with you. So thank you, brother. I do look forward to our paths crossing again sometime soon. Stay tuned for more episodes, and please leave a review on iTunes if you like what you've been hearing. I love to see the feedback. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and psychedelics.